You're watching the legal breakdown. So, Glenn, we've got a major win on the accountability front. You yourself just got back from the courthouse here. What happened to one of Trump's top lieutenants?
Well, at long last, Steve Bannon is headed to prison. So I sat in court and watched Trump-appointed Judge Carl Nichols preside over Steve Bannon's case. He presided over the trial. Of course, it's like ancient history if you think back to how long ago a jury convicted Steve Bannon of 2 counts of contempt of Congress for thumbing his nose at a congressional subpoena. He refused to testify. He refused to provide any documents that had been subpoenaed. Why? Because if he had testified or he had provided those documents, he would have incriminated Donald Trump. So he steadfastly refused to do it. He was indicted, he was tried, he was convicted in a D.C. minute, not to be confused with a New York minute, and we have been waiting for his sentence to commence ever since, a couple of years now. So what Steve Bannon did is he appealed to the D.C. Federal Circuit Court of Appeals, and during that time, ordinarily, the presumption in the law, and this was discussed in court today, the presumption in the law is that somebody will serve their sentence while they pursue their appeal. But this Trump-appointed judge said, nope, I'm going to leave Steve Bannon out and about while his appeal works its way through the system. Well, not too long ago, a 3-judge panel of the Federal Appeals Court said, we affirm your conviction. You have no consequential issues of law that would result in you, winning a new trial. So now the prosecutors went back before Judge Nichols, and they said, look, you put him on release pending appeal because, Judge, you believed he might have some significant issue of law that might result in him winning a new trial. I don't want to get down in the criminal justice weeds, but it had to do with what the definition of the word willful means and whether it has changed in the law over time. And a 3-judge panel said, no, willful schmilful, that's not exactly how they put it. We affirm his conviction. So now, of course, Steve Bannon still wants to do some things. What does he want to do? He wants to appeal to the full appeals court, en banc. He wants to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And what Judge Nichols said today, to his credit, Brian, and I criticize him when I must, and I will compliment him when I should. He said, listen, the appeals court obviously disagreed with my assessment on this willful issue. They said there is no significant legal issue there, and I am now prepared to sort of readjust and order him into confinement. So with that, at the very end of the hearing, he said, I am ordering Steve Bannon to surrender, to report to the Federal Bureau of Prisons beginning on July 1st to serve his 4-month sentence. And I will say that made Steve Bannon's lawyer especially unhappy.
Glenn, what was Steve Bannon's reaction in the courtroom, if you were able to see that?
I didn't see a noticeable reaction from Bannon, but I did see a noticeable reaction from his lawyer, Bruce Schoen. He had 2 lawyers with him, Evan Corcoran, a former colleague of mine. He is the one who, you may remember, famously was put in the grand jury to testify against his client, Donald Trump, because the crime fraud exception pierced the attorney-client relationship. More to come on that front soon. But Bruce Schoen is the one who spoke and who took the lead. He also represented Donald Trump in one of his 2 impeachment trials. He is loud. He's a bit obnoxious. He can get very aggressive. And, he kind of behaved himself during the course of his argument. But, boy, once the judge said, I'm ordering him into confinement, 2 things. First of all, I wanted to get out into the hall because I wanted to let MSNBC and others know as soon as the ruling had come down. But I saw Bruce Schoen sort of make a beeline for the podium where the speakers stand, the attorneys stand when they're addressing the court, uninvited by the judge. I heard him get loud. I heard him get aggressive in his disagreement with what Judge Nichols had just done, ordering Bannon to report for the beginning of his prison term. And I stepped out, and it got louder and louder, and then I heard the reporting from in the courtroom, the people who stayed. Judge Nichols dressed him down and said, That's not the way an attorney behaves in court. So that is, of course, what we've come to expect from, any of these Trump world attorneys. And I would say Bruce Schoen is one of the Trump world attorneys.
Were you surprised to see Judge Nichols actually go through with this? I mean, this is, as you mentioned, this is a Trump lackey who really had done everything he could to prevent accountability for Steve Bannon in the past.
I was surprised, Brian. If I had to place my $1 bet, I probably would have put it on Judge Nichols continuing to leave Bannon out pending further appeals in the case. But to his credit, he listened to what the appellate court judges said. He accepted their interpretation of the law, and he yielded. And he said, okay, they disagreed with me. It's time for him to begin serving his sentence. But yeah, to answer your question, I was a little surprised because given Judge Nichols' track record thus far.
Do you think that the reason that he had to relent here was because it would have been so easy for prosecutors to kind of overturn this on appeal based on how blatantly wrong he was in keeping him out of prison in the first place?
I'm not sure. I want to give him credit for actually assessing the appellate court opinion in this case that basically completely rejected this notion that there was some open question of law on the definition of willfulness that should inure to Steve Bannon's benefit. What Judge Nichols said during the course of the hearing was, I thought it was an issue, but all three judges sort of robustly shot that down. It's not like there was, one of the appellate court judges who wrote a separate opinion indicating that they have some lingering concern about the willfulness standard. So, I have to give him credit for today applying the law as it was intended to be applied and ordering Steve Bannon to begin serving his prison term.
Does that suggest that these people feel some shame when they're so obviously rebuked by basically their peers? Like, I mean, this was three judges in the appeals court. Most of us kind of view this as just these judges acting, these Trump-aligned judges acting as partisan hacks who don't kind of experience any shame when they do stuff that is so nakedly partisan. But this would suggest that he kind of felt the sting of the rebuke a little bit by these three judges above him.
I can't look into his mind, but what I would say is all judges are different. Even all Trump-appointed judges are different. Some have served well and honorably in accordance with the rule of law, others less so. Judge Cannon comes to mind. But what I would like to think is if they have any concern for their reputation and for their longevity on the bench, recognizing it's a life appointment and it's very hard to dislodge even the worst of the worst federal judges, I'd like to think that they learn in the job, they grow in the job. And listen, Donald Trump will be in our rearview mirror someday, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I like to see judges move forward and, care about their reputation, given that they're going to be on the federal bench a very long time. The one judge who seems stubbornly unwilling to learn or to change her approach to all things Donald Trump is Judge Cannon down in Florida.
Now, I feel like this is a kind of almost a silly question to ask because his sentence is so short, relatively speaking, but is there any way that Bannon could get out early?
So typically you have to do 85% of the time that is imposed by a judge. There are some things called good time credits, and I actually am a proponent of good time credit. Why is that? Because it's frankly not easy to manage, thousands and thousands of prisoners, and it's sort of dangling a carrot to the inmates that, look, if you don't act up, if you abide by the rules of the facility, if you don't go around shanking your fellow inmates, you may earn some good time credit, which could reduce the overall sentence you have to serve. But typically a measuring stick is 85% of the time imposed is what somebody who is sentenced in the federal system will have to serve.
Well, we'll leave it there. And of course, any other updates we get on the Steve Bannon front, as well as any other prosecutions that Trump or his criminal accomplices are facing, we'll bring it to you. So for those who are watching right now, if you want to follow along, please make sure to subscribe to both of our channels. The links are right here on the screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.